Hi, my name is Al Getler. Welcome back to Lead or Be Led. We've been doing a series of episodes on branding and personal branding. You know, branding is so important. You don't realize it, but it touches you every day throughout your day. And you start noticing powerful brands, and what makes them powerful are some very, very important steps that experts know about. We have an expert with us here today, as we have for our previous episodes. He'll be taking us through the rest of branding over the next couple of weeks. He's kind of our in-house branding guy. His name is Hugo Amorim, and he is the principal and brand strategist for Brandpendulum. So let's bring Hugo into the signal here, and let's talk to him about branding. Hugo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you? I'm doing well. We asked each other at the same time. I'm doing very, very well. So you're going to take us through the next step of branding. And we've learned a few things so far, but I guess we have a lot more to learn, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
So what are we going to touch on today?
All right. So today we're going to talk about the wisdom and functionality of branding. So not everybody knows these small minor details about branding. So I'm going to shed some light on some ideas and some concepts that somebody who's just doing this on Vistaprint, or doing this on their own with publisher or something like that would kind of have not have that kind of expertise to understand some of those things.
Sure. And I think I have a pretty strong opinion that some of the web-based products that can give you websites, printed materials, etc., I kind of call that being caught in that hell, that you're stuck in that place and you can't get out. And so you're going to help us come up with brands that are fresh and unique and that really pop and people remember. So take us through this if you wouldn't mind.
So this first concept is a brand is not just a logo. If you think of it as an iceberg, the top of the iceberg is your logo, and the rest of the brand is kind of the bottom of the iceberg. So this first concept is called it's the acronym K.I.S.S, and it's keep it simple, stupid. And not to say, oh, have your brand be stupid, but have it be simple enough to somebody to understand it and to be kind of commonplace.
So it shouldn't be that hard for a person to take in that brand, take in that logo, and understand what it is.
Yes, that's kind of the concept behind that.
If they have to work too hard at it, then it's not simple enough.
Right.
All right, what's next?
So next, there's a few things with logos that you kind of have to keep in mind. And once again, I'm talking about logos just because it's a big facet of the brand. So you want to make sure a logo doesn't have 3 or more colors. Now, if you're a multinational company and you have lots of money to spend, some of these things don't really apply to you because your coffers are kind of open to spending that kind of money. Mm-hmm. But you want to make sure that it has less than 3 colors, that there's no gradients or bevels or embosses, because that really takes away the quality of it in the long run for different kind of things. For example, if you're silk screening a shirt, or if you're doing an embroidery, it's really hard to do gradients and bevels on them. So those are the kind of things that you kind of want to be aware of when you're designing a logo in general, because it doesn't really transpose to the different mediums of different things.
So what is defined as a bevel? What's a bevel?
So that's a very good question. So a bevel is kind of, so if you look at like the iPhone, and there's like a rounded edge around like an image or a logo or a letter. It's usually it fades from dark to light. Mm-hmm. On the edge. And why is that such a big issue? Well, when you're silk screening that, you cannot reproduce a bevel because it's gradating from either a black to a color, and there's really no way of actually doing a gradation in silk screen. Some might say that there's a bit of a way to finesse it, but it's really complicated. As a small business owner or as a startup, you really don't want to deal with gradients in your logo. So you really want to keep that in mind.
So you're keeping in mind that the logo isn't always going to appear in the most, simple of spaces. It's not going to be as clean as it is when you look at it on the screen for the first time, because you're going to put it on pens and pads and T-shirts on the sides of vehicles and event signs and things like that. So you want to keep it simple, as you say, and you want to keep the colors down to 1 or 2 colors so that things look clean. And you mentioned before a brand, before we came on camera, FedEx started off as orange and purple, but now that the brand has matured, they have taken the logo and they even have different services. They've switched the colors around because it's FedEx and because the style of the text is so recognizable and clean, you know who it is.
Right, exactly, and
Okay.
it's really important to note that color is important, and you want to make sure that it's going to come across the right way and in all mediums. So if you're small and you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money to put towards spending on producing those items the right way, you might as well keep them as simple as possible.
Right, right. Okay, good. Okay, what comes next?
So next is scalability, and this kind of plays in with my last concept. And scalability means that it should be able to fit in a pen, and it should be able to look good on a billboard. So it has to scale throughout everything. And the reason is sometimes when a designer is inexperienced or doesn't really understand this concept in general, they end up creating stuff that's too close together, and then it ends up blending together.
Okay.
So if you have very fine spaces, very small, minute spaces, it might look great on a 3x5 card, but it will look terrible when it's a half an inch small and it's on a pen, and it's been kind of condensed and reduced down to such a small space that all those extra spaces kind of disappear.
Okay, so scale is important. What's next?
So next is it should always work in black and white. Once again, kind of ties back to all that other stuff that I've been talking about. And the reason why is, if you're still screening something and you need it to be just one color, it could be very easy to go in there and kind of do a T-shirt or do a mug. That you're not going to spend a lot of money in producing.
Gotcha. Okay. What comes next?
Obviously, it has to be memorable. If it's not memorable, if it doesn't invoke anything, it might end up even being confusing, or it might not intrigue anybody. So you got to make sure that it's memorable and that it stands out.
I remember we talked about GE at one point, and I mentioned something about the age of GE, but you pointed out to me that it's memorable. It works. It still works today. It worked 30 years ago. It's still a good logo.
Right, and that's the importance of a good logo. A good logo should last a really long time, and you can always tell with a good logo that you can always come in and change minor things around the logo,
right,
and the rest of the brand, and have it still be useful, and not change the kind of the concept of that logo.
Yeah, it's funny. It makes me think of UPS. I mean, if you were inventing UPS today, you wouldn't have brown trucks with people wearing brown uniforms. But yet it still works today. They tweaked the logo a few years ago, and I mean tweak. They didn't redo it. They just tweaked it, made it stronger, put it on a shield, and UPS still works despite the fact that it's brown and gold.
With that shield, there's a lot of that stuff that I kind of talk about not having, and but it works in both ways. So it's important to kind of keep it so that it's flexible enough to be used on certain things that only require one color or two colors, and have it be more embellished in other areas.
Okay. What comes next, Hugo?
And obviously, it needs to be original. If if it looks like it's clip art, or if you have a swoosh or something that kind of resembles something that's already out there, you're not being original. There was a string in the 90s or the 2000s that, you know, a lot of people used, kind of the wireless kind of signal swoosh kind of symbol. When every company looks the same like that, it just really kind of cuts down on, you know, the bottom line of who you really are, because you're not looking original.
Yeah, so to define, I mean, clip art is any kind of art you're going to find in a program or on a website that offers you little, you know, snippets of artwork. While you can combine them together and change the colors, they are still pieces of artwork that other people can grab and download and utilize in their logo, correct?
Right. And the importance is to not have something that's going to look the same as someone else's.
Okay.
I mean, you want to stand out, and you want to make sure that that stuff is kind of protected, and it's only proprietary to your company. So if you're using a lot of those graphics, sometimes, you know, if you use a service such as like Logo Tournament or something like that, they might be using a lot of stock art content to give you these logos that that are really sometimes in a copyright violation of you know, whatever graphic that was.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. What comes next?
A brand needs to be flexible and needs to accommodate all the needs that it's going to have in the long run. So if you have tons of stuff, too many bells and whistles, it's going to be very hard to produce that later on into different mediums.
So that comes under the simple part, all right?
Yes.
All right, what should we think about next?
The other thing is color, and there's a lot of psychology in color that I'm just not going to go into. But you want to make sure that your color is opposite from your competitors, because after all, you do not want to be in the same realm or look like your competitors.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I have something on my website. If you go to algetler.com and search colors, there's actually a chart on there of what colors are chosen by marketers and why. So that's a helpful tool you can take a look at. So what is the last thing we need to think about?
It should focus on all the right things. If you're kind of just, you know, loose about it, and you kind of don't have a direction, and you're not really concentrating on your core, it really kind of gives off the wrong message and the wrong vibe. So you just want to make sure that it's kind of concise. It's, you know, saying all the right things and kind of moving it forward.
Well, and that brings me back to the day I met you, Hugo, at a business event. You had a business card with an absolutely clean logo, which is at the bottom of the screen, every one of the slides you just showed. And you also had a business card that spoke volumes about your brand and what you believed in. So you absolutely practice what you preach. So Hugo, if we want to get in touch with you, how do we do it?
Sure. You could either visit me on my website. It's www.brandpendulum.com. Or you could send me an email, hugo@brandpendulum, or call me at 1-508-641-7062.
Outstanding. Now, I want to remind the audience that Hugo is also working on branding for me. So as the next couple of episodes go on, we're going to start seeing some hints of where Hugo is taking my brand, and I'm very excited to see what you have in store for me, Hugo. I'm sure it's going to be great. So with that, I'm going to thank you for being on the show today, and we're going to see you soon to talk about the next portion of branding and how we get there with a personal brand. Thanks, Hugo.
Thank you.
Well, thank all of you, too, for being here for Lead or Be Led. I want to remind you to get the URL out to people, share it, www.leadorbeled.com. We have had lots of great guests so far. Those videos are posted on YouTube and on my website. Also, we have some great guests coming up throughout the next few weeks and beyond. So please spread the word, comment below, tell us what you'd like to see, and we'll see you next time on Lead or Be Led. Thanks.